Education is a privilege, because my grandfather always used to say, like, better get a good education, because back then they ain't have all that. And like, he always say, you kids is blessed because like we had to do this and this and that. And nowadays, like, everything is like given to you. They had to work real hard for it back then. So I think education is a privilege. A dropout is like, you've been in school, you just stop going to school.
Well, a dropout from school is when a kid stops going to school permanently.
I think it's somebody who sold themselves short.
That you failed school, I guess. That you quit.
A kid that just quits and don't have nobody there to like show them the way to get to their goals.
What I consider a dropout to be is any student who does not graduate from a public high school with a high school diploma.
Why should anybody care about dropouts? Because if not, then this world is going to be epic failure. Why wouldn't you care about dropouts?
Students who drop out do so much worse. The difference between a person who drops out of high school and graduates from high school in the course of a lifetime is nearly $1 million in earnings.
You need a high school diploma to get employed at McDonald's, and that's McDonald's. Like, so if you don't have that, where are you working?
We know that 50% of the people that are incarcerated don't have a diploma, a high school diploma. We know that. We know that 50% or 40 to 50% of the people on welfare do not have a high school diploma.
There's more people on the streets. That's crowding our jails. That's more suicides, homicides. It add up. Do you know someone who isn't in school?
I'm older, but when I was younger, we all wasn't in school. All my peers, we all dropped out.
Why do they drop out?
There's a lot of different reasons. Sometimes it's economics. The kids need to work, supplement family income. Very often they're disengaged.
I think that there are any number of challenges that students face. First of all, it is the challenge to remain motivated, to remain in school. That's probably their biggest hurdle.
Kid has issues at 15, 16, 17 years old, then we need to address those issues.
Do I think youths are getting support? No, I don't. I think they basically have to handle things on their own.
They have nobody there by their side pushing them to do what they want to do when they get older. And they just don't have no older role model.
It's overwhelming for them. They have issues at home that they need to take care of before they have to do school.
It's people who go through stuff at home and them teachers really don't understand.
Maybe have some problems at home, drugs, bullies.
They could have a child or something. There's a whole bunch of reasons why people drop out of school.
There is a lot of peer pressure. A lot of students drop out, and they tell their friends, what are you doing there? Well, what's the purpose? That's not for you. It's not for us. Sometimes misery loves company. So those that aren't doing well, they try and drag their friends with them. So there's a lot of peer pressure on the kids not to finish.
I don't think it's peer pressure. I think it's the lack of respect and the lack of... I think my son was told on several occasions that he would never make it by teachers. And they didn't have that right to put that in his head. Now I'm telling him he can make it, and I tell him he's somebody, because he is somebody, and he will make it, regardless of what he's been told.
Everybody's not going to believe that you can succeed. Everybody's not going to want you to succeed, you know. But you've got to be able to reach that point in your life where what others think about you isn't necessary. It's what you think about yourself.
That make you feeling good about yourself part, like, it's teachers who degrade you with words you don't understand or they think you don't understand just so you won't say nothing. But they like my teacher said, oh, you have a minuscule brain. But she didn't think I knew what minuscule meant. So I laughed, like, I was like, ha ha ha, like, yeah, sure I do. But she really didn't understand, like, she really just put me down. And she a teacher. She was my teacher. And how do you say to one of your students, you have a very tiny brain? That makes, like, that's ridiculous. And what if I was a kid with, like, low self-esteem? What if I already thought, like, I wasn't smart? I probably would have been like, oh, she probably right. I have a minuscule brain and I should not be in school. What's the point of me being in school if I'm not learning nothing with this tiny brain?
You want to be there because people really believe that you can do something. And school's very harsh, isn't it? Because you're measured by tests, you're measured by competition, people always talking about how'd you do. And so, you know, I think there are a lot of pressures on young people. And so to me, the biggest reason why people drop out is because somehow they're allowed to believe that they're failures.
You can't really blame anybody but yourself, because at the end of the day, that's all you have.
In my sphere of what education is about, is the fact that my experiences should count for something. So therefore, I should be held more accountable than you.
They should be shared accountability, because there's no question. The teachers bear a large responsibility, a large part of it. We're there in the classroom with the kids, so that a big part of it falls to us in the school building.
At the end of the day, you are your own person. Nobody, because your parents do have say-so.
You need, in anything you do, you need your parent support. I mean, to be active in school, you need home support, whatever. Kids need parent support. Parents need to be more involved.
I think that there's enough blame for everyone. I really do. I feel that there's enough blame for everyone.
The teachers, the principals, the parents, everybody. In 2007, the Associated Press published a Johns Hopkins report labeling New Haven's two largest schools as dropout factories. In a statement to the press, Superintendent of New Haven Public Schools stated, Connecticut's dropout formula takes into account that entering freshmen don't always stay with their original schools. Some move out of town, some move out of state. Many of our students return to their countries of origin. Others find greatest success at New Haven's adult education program.
I don't think that the numbers are being accurately recorded. I don't see that happening. So it's harder, I think, for people to get a handle on exactly what is happening in New Haven.
We utilize the state's methodology of counting. For me to say that I am absolutely, familiar with how they go about coming up with their formula, I'm not, but I do know that that's what we use.
I think, unfortunately, that the reporting that is required by the state doesn't accurately get at the true numbers of the number of students who are pushed out of school, who are dropping out of school.
And one of the things that happens with data is that it's easily manipulated to the person who's trying to present it. So rather than, the state have one, New Haven has another, West Haven another, whatever else, most of us comply to what's being utilized currently by the state as for students to be counted as a dropout.
The State Department of Ed is watching, but part of the problem with that is that they only know what New Haven tells them.
I sent out a Freedom of Information request to the city of New Haven. I haven't gotten a response yet. And that Freedom of Information request asks for the withdrawal form, okay, that allows, because you need your parents' consent. But I don't think that the city of New Haven is getting the parents to consent, okay? And it also asks to see all of those. So I would like to match up the number of kids that quit, so however many that is, okay, with the withdrawal form, with the parents signing it. And I can guarantee you, as we sit here today, that it's not even going to come close to matching.
Just stop for a minute. Think about how many kids are in your freshman class. Think of how many kids are in your class now. And then when you graduate, count the number of diplomas they give out.
The Connecticut Department of Education works out how many people drop out of high school by tracking a class of students from freshman to senior year and dividing the total number of people who drop out by the number of people in that class when they started. According to this formula, in 2006, New Haven's biggest schools, James Hillhouse and Wilbercross, had dropout rates of around 20% and most students graduated. But researchers at Johns Hopkins University did an independent study. They found that 197 people graduated from Hillhouse, although 479 students had started in that class. That means that only 41% of students graduated from Hillhouse. The figures are almost as bad at Cross. In both schools, almost a quarter of the students are unaccounted for.
That, I think, is a problem. And that is certainly something also that the legislature has been looking at, which is to have schools more accurately report how many kids start, how many kids finish, and what happens in between.
Here's the fact. Here's the dirty secret about the state of Connecticut. If a child is in, what is a high school in New Haven? Okay, he's in Hillhouse, and he doesn't like school. We tell him, you know, don't drop out or whatever. Go into adult ed. Soon as that child goes into adult ed, they are now invisible. And what I mean by that is they are no longer tracked. It is as if they never went to Hillhouse. So if you go into adult ed, you didn't drop out and you didn't graduate. So even if you drop out of adult ed, you're not on their dropout rate. So nobody knows that you existed. And even if you graduate from adult ed, you're really not considered a graduate. So if I know that every child that goes into adult ed and then they drop out later, or they take their GED later, which in the state of Connecticut, if you take a GED, you're a dropout. So every child that I can convince to go into adult ed and then they're gone, there's no accountability.
It's definitely true that when a student withdraws voluntarily, then they don't have to count it the same way as if, say, the student were expelled or something like that. So there's an incentive, I think, for some schools to try and push students out and call it something other than an expulsion, for example.
If I'm successful as a principal who needs you to be in adult ed because you're dragging down my test score, average test score, I get to count you as a successful student because you didn't drop out, you're still enrolled. If I can get you to go to an alternative program, which may not, you know, you may be smarter than what's available out there, but you're just not demonstrating it the same way. But if I can get you to sign up over there, I win because I get to keep you as an enrolled student. You're not a dropout.
A dropout is, you know, a kid just leaves school because he wants to, and no one tells him to do anything. He just says, you know what, I've had enough. And a push out is where a kid leaves school, and it seems like it's on his own, I should say, but you find out that maybe an administrator came and told him if he didn't leave, he would get expelled, or there was some other pressure on him, or they kept not giving him the right classes, anything that would put pressure on a kid to take himself out.
A push out is when the district, principal, whoever, convinces a student that they may not graduate, things are a little difficult for them, and basically suggest going to adult ed, withdrawing from school. That is a push out.
In my definition of push out, it means that we've come up with official reasons to say we don't want you.
This is really bothering me now that this push out thing, because that's what they recommend, adult ed. Wow.
There are certainly schools within New Haven, there are schools within other school districts that have administrators who have a student who's quote unquote disruptive in school, and the minute that they think that they're approaching an age where they could logistically say, you know what, maybe you want to withdraw from school, they will suggest that to students.
I went to a high school here in New Haven, and I got into a little altercation in school, but I was doing what I was supposed to do. And the principals called my parents in, they came in, and then he was telling her, like, I'm too old to finish out the year in the school. I don't have enough credits. The best thing for me to do is to go to adult education and stuff like that, and that's what a push out is.
Did you go to adult ed?
No.
Why?
Adult ed ain't for me.
I would like to think the school's not looking just to push the kids out, but they're trying to have the kids make an informed choice. You're not doing well here, and you're not going to finish, and you won't graduate. If you go to adult ed, here's an option where maybe you will graduate, and finish school. So I think that's, now the kids probably don't perceive it that way. All they know is, you just don't want me in your school. You just want to send me over to adult ed to get rid of me. And I probably would feel the same way if I were 15, 16 years old in that situation. But that is at least the intent of the program, is that if we recognize that the kids, they're not going to make it in a regular setting, we have to provide them some alternative. Now, if that alternative is not a quality alternative, that's where the kids say, well, I don't want to go there because that's not a good school.
Well, you keep saying pushed out of the school, and I'm going to try to avoid that language, because any administrator who ends up watching this is going to have a major problem with that language. Hopefully you're not saying that for any reason of personal knowledge that you know of kids getting pushed out. This is supposed to be, they're supposed to give an exit interview and try to talk the kid not to not drop out. Now I know that doesn't happen all the time. So if my true hope is that administrators and teachers are not pushing kids out of school.
Wilbur Cross was sending out letters to students who were 18 or approaching 18 and we're in the 10th grade, we're not going to graduate, saying we're going to administratively withdraw you from school.
There are any number of reasons for that. I mean, if you're an 18 or 19-year-old student, and we know freshmen come in at 14, and you sitting in a classroom, 19, 18, sitting in a classroom with a 14-year-old, and you've been in school already for 4 years and you don't have any credits. It isn't that the school is pushing you out. Who's pushed who out at this particular point in time?
It's a shame that that people will be given the impression that they have to leave or that they're not welcome in their school, and that's their right by law to be at that school.
Education is a right. It is a right, but if it's a right until you're 16.
Students are allowed to be in school until they're 21, and oftentimes we see kids leaving without a diploma, even though they're entitled to be there until they're 21.
They're probably, as you said, they're unaware of it. So they say, well, okay, I guess this is what I have to do, and then they move on. And if no one's telling, if they're not getting that information at home, and the school system's not telling, well, there's really only two places the kids get information. Either in school, we help them, or at home, or hopefully both. But in many of our students, they're not getting that information at home. We don't tell them in school if that's what you're saying. Yeah. And so they say, well, I guess that's it. Either I go to adult ed or I drop out, or I go to an alternative school that they asked me to go to. I don't want to go there, so I'm dropping out. Or they try it, don't like it, and still drop out. So yeah, I'm sure it has an effect.
Yeah, if they're being pushed into adult ed, they're definitely, using that, then that's a good verb, because they're pushing kids into adult ed, and that means they're pushing them out. So, I just have to be careful and politically correct, but I So I wasn't trying to say not to, just making sure that you weren't going to tell me you knew 5 people that got pushed out of school.
I have probably worked with 10 students who have had that happen to them.
I know several kids. Do you want me to name them or no? Because I can name a couple of them. Okay.
Actually, I was. I was asked to leave Hamden High and go to adult education because my grade scores wasn't high enough.
Do you think it was right for them to push you out of school?
No, because it should be classes where if I wasn't getting the right help, then I should have been put in a class where I was capable of working.
Kids who need more services and the schools don't have the money and they can't get the money from the state. And so they're in a tough situation, right, where they have only limited money and they have kids they can't cover. And so there's kind of a push on them to get those kids out.
But their needs have to be addressed as well. The problem with that is that's expensive. Whenever you do an alternative program, you not only have your regular program, which is expensive enough, now you're going to have another program. Well, there needs to be teachers there, an administrator, secretary, a building, a custodian, lunch room, etc. So it becomes prohibitively expensive.
Also, it's true that schools have to show improvement in their numbers from year to year in order to get federal money. So if they have a lot of kids who don't ever come to school, but they're still on the books, or who only come a little bit, or who come and aren't getting the services they need and aren't doing well, that hurts the whole school. So that's another incentive for them to maybe try and get those kids out of there. I don't think it's right, but those are the forces that are at play.
They're not pushing to keep dropouts inside schools. They don't, once a child is out of school, it's like they don't care because that child probably was messing up funding, and they just don't worry about them no more.
Here's what happens when you go to an alternative program, like the adult high school diploma or the GED program. As a student in a public school in Connecticut, you have a lot of rights. You're entitled to special education. You're entitled to transportation. You're entitled to having a nurse in your school. You're entitled in some public school districts, including New Haven, to have a certain amount of dental care. You're entitled to having counseling so that you can, if you think about going to college, you're entitled to have a person who's trained to work with you in that, to provide that service for you. The minute you step into adult education, none of that applies. No special ed, no gifted and talented, no after-school activities, no participation in sports, no participation in school clubs, nothing. And so it ends up being a bargain. I say that in the most sorrowful way, that it's a bargain for school districts when they can counsel you out and have you choose one of those other programs.
I think that we have a long way to go in the state of Connecticut in terms of, ensuring that each kid has an education.
Excuse me.